Right, today I want to look at the new Omega Observatory, the watch that quietly replaced the Globemaster recently. Now, Omega not exactly stealing the limelight from Rolex this week on the run up to Watches and Wonders, so I wouldn't blame you if you missed it altogether. Anyway, I tried it on at the boutique this week and I'll say this up front. It's a very attractive piece. Yeah, there are some genuinely thoughtful design choices that help explain the price hike, though not all of it. And, we'll get to that. I'm Andy and welcome to the English Watch. Now, before we dive into the watch itself, a bit of context. Back in the mid-20th century, observatories like Geneva, Neuchâtel and Kew Gardens ran rigorous chronometer trials. Now these were scientific competitions, testing movements in multiple positions, temperatures and conditions over several weeks. Now Omega dominated many of these trials, setting precision records that stood for decades. And there's a star on the winding rotor for each of those wins. So when Omega used the word observatory, it echoes back to those times. Now, it's a reference to a period when the brand was genuinely pushing the limits of mechanical accuracy. But these things are more challenging to excel in now. So why bother, you may ask? Fast forward to 2015 and Omega launches the Globemaster, the first watch to achieve the new Master Chronometer certification. METAS testing added magnetism, resistance, water resistance and real-world performance, so the traditional COSC accuracy tests. But even that isn't special anymore. Tudor have it for less. Now the Globemaster wrapped that very technical milestone in a vintage-leaning, if industrial design, pipe and dial, fluted bezel and proportions that, on paper should have appealed. Although I never got on with that lobster-style bracelet. And now Omega has quietly retired it and replaced it with this new observatory. Let's start with the positives, because, to be fair to Omega, there are a few. First, the overall look. It's a handsome watch. Omega's leaned into its mid-century aesthetic, without doubt following very closely to the 1950s Constellation. And then there's the dial. Beautifully executed, clean, balanced, and with enough depth and character to keep it interesting. Now, the absence of a seconds hand gives it a serene, uncluttered look. Now, the handset, sharp, elegant, and well finished. Omega's attention to detail here is excellent, and on this white dial version, all the indices are in solid gold. Now, the case, with its milled lug profiles, it's nicely finished and far more shiny than the outgoing Globemaster. The lugs give the case a sculpted, almost architectural quality. And one of the details you only appreciate when you have this watch in the hand. It's definitely better in person. Now, Omega is doing curved crystals extremely well at the moment. You see it on the Seamaster 300 and the Speedmaster. And now here, it adds warmth and distortion to the edges that really suit the vintage aesthetic. And then finally there's the strap. The leather strap and that pin buckle pairing is absolutely the right choice. A deployant class would have felt too modern, and the pin buckle keeps the character intact. So far so good then. But now we get to the issues, because for all of the charm, there are some real sticking points. First, the size. Now on paper, 39.4mm doesn't sound large, but the 47.2mm lug to lug wears quite broad on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. Now these watches are meant to evoke the 1950s. They should wear smaller, not larger. Second, the thickness. At over 12mm, it's simply too tall for the aesthetic, and I think Omega has boxed themselves in with their movement architecture. The caliber 8914 is essentially the same movement that sits inside my 43.5mm Planet Ocean, just without the date disc and that seconds hand. Now, when your movement is built for a dive watch, you're always going to struggle to make it into a slim dress watch. A JLC Master Ultra Thin, this isn't, but it really should be. A 37 or 38mm case would have been perfect. Instead, we get something slightly out of proportion. Then there's the absence of the seconds hand. Now, this is one that genuinely perplexes me. Yes, it cleans up the dial. Yes, it looks elegant. But if you're going to claim master chronometer accuracy and arc back to those observatory watches, shouldn't you at least give the owner a way to verify it other than just the digital certificate? Now, without the seconds hand, you're kind of taking Omega's word for it, and then post the service, who knows? Now, maybe that extra millimetre of thickness the seconds hand would have added was deemed unacceptable. Maybe Omega has data showing customers prefer the cleaner look, but it still feels a strange omission on a watch that's about precision. And then, finally, the price. Starting at £9,100 to £48,400, that's not a price range, that's a psychological experiment. And when you can buy a restored 34mm 1950s original with a seconds hand and a date and the classic pipe hand dial for £3,000 to £4,000, it becomes very hard to justify the modern premium. And honestly, that's probably where my money would go. So where does that leave the new Observatory? It's beautifully made. It's a beautifully made watch with some genuinely impressive design details. The dial, the case, the crystal, the strap, they're all excellent. But the size, the thickness, the movement constraints, the missing seconds hand, and the pricing strategy all hold it back. Now, I'd also ask where it naturally sits in Omega's lineup. I mean, this should be a de facto men's dress watch that has all of the heritage and cachet of Omega's past. Why have the Trésor or all those DeVilles? Oh, and that Seamaster Boutique Edition, which is far better proportioned, thinner, keeps the date and seconds hand. The mind boggles. It's a watch I admire, but not one I'd buy, and you shouldn't either, except maybe on the secondary market where it might make a nice everyday dress watch one day. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think of the new Omega Globemaster, Observatory watch. Now, leave your comments in the section below, and while you're there, why not subscribe? Anyway, for now, I'm Andy, this has been The English Watch. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.